proceed.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, ma'am. May you please introduce yourself to the jury and spell your name for the record?
My name is Lora Ellis, Loraellis.
And where are you employed?
I'm employed at the Polk County Sheriff's Office.
Tell the jury about your education and training and experience.
I have 800 hours of on-the-job training with the Polk County Sheriff's Office, and our education is ongoing. So they offer us education as the year goes on with classes through the agency.
And what is your job title at the Sheriff's Office?
Forensic Investigator.
What does that mean?
We respond to multiple calls for service. We obtain digital photographs, collect evidence, and process scenes as needed.
Have you been to a number of homicide scenes during your career?
Yes, sir.
Have you also responded to other types of crime scenes?
Yes, sir.
Now, this particular case, I want to direct your attention to September 8th of last year. Do you recall how you became involved with the case?
We received a call from our dispatch center requesting us to respond to the address.
And where did you respond to?
77 Hewlett Drive in Auburndale.
And is that in Polk County?
Yes, sir.
Now, did you have any basic information en route to the scene?
We were just informed that we needed to respond and call in reference to a death investigation.
When you get there, what do you see first, or who do you see first?
I made contact with Detective Peters and Forensic Investigator Bange.
Is Detective Peters Detective Danny Peters with the Homicide Division?
Correct, yes, sir.
And did he end up being the lead detective in this case?
Yes, sir.
Without telling us anything he might have said, did he kind of give you a little briefing of what was going on?
Yes, sir.
What did you do next?
We waited for a search warrant to be obtained for the property.
And after the search warrant was obtained, did that give you legal authority to then do whatever you wanted to do to process the scene effectively?
Correct.
About what time were you there that evening?
What time did I arrive on scene?
Yes.
At approximately 19:09 hours.
All right. That's 7:09 p.m.?
Yes.
Now, what was your first order of business once the search warrant was approved and you took the next step?
We started obtaining digital photographs of the scene as observed.
Were you able to see both inside the house and outside the house?
Yes.
And what type of community was it in general?
More like a senior living community. It was multiple mobile homes.
Were the homes did they appear to be well taken care of?
Yes, sir.
Like nicely manicured lawns?
Yes.
The houses were in order?
Yes.
Now, outside the residence, did you get an opportunity to see a couple of cars that were there at the scene?
I did.
What color and what make of cars were those?
One was a white Volkswagen Jetta, and one was a black Volkswagen Jetta.
Where was the black Jetta?
It was underneath the carport on the south side of the residence.
And how about the white car?
It was in the roadway, west of the residence.
Was it parked?
Yes.
Now, have you had an opportunity previously to see States Exhibits 1 through 99? That also includes 77A and 77B?
Yes, sir.
And are those photographs that you took that document the scene and some things that you saw and impounded at the scene?
Yes, sir.
Did they fairly and accurately depict everything?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, at this time the state removes States 1 through 99, which also includes 77A and 77B in the evidence.
Any objection?
Yes, sir.
They are received.
Now, in addition to that, at some later date, were you able to take some aerial photographs?
Yes, sir.
And how do you do that?
We respond to the PCSO hangar in Bartow, and then they take us via helicopter, and we fly over the area and obtain digital photographs from the helicopter.
And are those depicted in State Exhibits 167 through 169, in addition to a Google map overhead?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, at this time the state removes States 167 to 169 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
They are received.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about, before we publish the photographs, the overhead aerial photographs. Do those show like how the neighbors' houses are situated across the street?
Yes, sir.
So kind of give a vantage point of what people might see from different locations depending on where they lived in relationship to the crime scene?
Yes, sir.
Now, in general, when you go to a crime scene, besides what you physically do, what are your objectives in terms of the integrity of the scene?
We do everything possible to protect the scene and any evidence that may be in it. So we pretty much limit who is in and out. It's mostly our homicide detectives as well as our forensic investigators that come in and out of the scene.
Now, the homicide detectives that are there, are they all doing like different things and have different responsibilities?
Yes.
Does anybody tell you what to do, or do you know what you need to do?
So we have a crime scene detective that typically will stay with us throughout the entire time that we're on the crime scene, and they tell us what they want us to collect or what they want specific photographs of while we're on scene.
All right, with the court's permission, I'd like to publish the photographs. Thank you. I may have some questions for you on a lot of these photographs, some perhaps not. But not surprisingly, we're going to start with State Exhibit 1. Can you see it on your screen as well?
Yes, sir.
Can you jurors as well see it? Okay. Tell the jury about what information that provides.
So this puts the date that we arrived, the time that I'm going to start taking my photographs, our case number that's provided by the agency, what kind of investigation or call that I've responded to, the address, the city, who the victim is, and who my detective for the case is.
And what time where did you start taking the photographs?
21:54.
And what does that mean?
That's the military time. It was 9:54, I believe.
All right. As we continue on, State Exhibit number 2. What's this?
That is the outside of the residence.
And is the black car and the white car, the Volkswagens, are they visible there?
Yes.
State Exhibit 3. State Exhibit 4. Now, in State Exhibit 4, is there an entryway, like a doorway into the house?
There is. It's along the north side of that carport.
To the left of the black car?
Correct.
And I notice in the bottom left corner there appears to be some mulch. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
State Exhibit 5, is that the doorway you spoke of?
Correct, yes, sir.
State Exhibit 6. Did you notice something in the mulch that caught your attention when you were documenting the scene?
Yes, sir.
State Exhibit 7. Is that a close-up of what you noticed?
Yes, sir.
And what was that?
It's a white AirPod.
State Exhibit 8. State Exhibit 9. On the trunk of the black Volkswagen appears to be something. What is that?
It is a set of keys.
Going back to State Exhibit 9, did that appear to include also a car key?
Yes, sir.
State Exhibit 10 outside, and now State Exhibit 11. The first interior shot in this sequence. Kind of situate the jury to what they're looking at.
So that's the living room of the residence?
The door that's visible kind of in the upper left-hand corner, is that the door we saw from the outside?
Yes.
So if somebody drags somebody in through near the carport, would that be the entranceway?
Objection. Calls for speculation.
If somebody drags somebody in through right next to the carport, would that be the door that they would enter through?
Yes.
It appears that there's something white on the wood floor. Is that correct?
Yes.
State Exhibit 12. Now, how would you describe the interior of the house? Not the actual where Kathy laid, but the rest of the house. How was it?
Very well maintained, very clean, very organized.
State Exhibit number 13. What is that?
It is another white AirPod.
Did it appear to be the matching one or a similar one to the one found in the mulch?
Yes.
State Exhibit 14. Do you know what that is?
It is the case for the earbuds.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but so the AirPod outside the AirPod inside and the case for the AirPods. Once you get inside, does that start going back towards where you ended up finding Kathy on the floor?
Yes.
State Exhibit 15. What do you see kind of in the background there? Where does that pathway lead to? If you go all the way back, does that enter the kitchen?
It does, yes.
Now, in your route to the kitchen, did anything look like it was knocked over or messed up, or did everything look pretty clean and in place?
It looks pretty clean and in place.
State Exhibit 16. Is this a picture of the kitchen?
Yes.
Now, the island, the bar, the island there, is the victim on the other side of that.
Yes.
That's a sliding door there? Is that a sliding glass door?
Yes, sir.
State Exhibit 17. That's an entryway and an exitway?
Yes.
All right, now State Exhibit 18. To the left of that sliding glass door, are there a washing machine and dryer maybe?
Yes.
Did you see a knife at the scene?
Yes.
And is that knife visible in that photograph?
Yes.
This is State Exhibit 19. Is that a closer up of what appears to be a bloody knife?
Yes.
State Exhibit 20. State Exhibit 21. Is this a close-up of that same bloody knife?
Yes.
Now, the jurors may see for the first time a yellow marker with the number 10 on it. What does that mean?
It's how we show where evidence is in our photos, so it gives a better layout of where everything is in reference to each other.
Did you impound that knife?
Yes.
Have you had an opportunity to take a look at State Exhibit 199?
Yes.
And is that the knife, the bloody knife from the scene?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would move State Exhibit 199 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
It is received.
Now, does the knife, and in a moment you'll have an opportunity to show the jury the knife, but does the knife look different today as opposed to when it's in the picture there?
Yes.
And why is that?
May I refer to my report?
Yes, ma'am.
On Wednesday, January 22nd, Detective Peters placed the knife into a temporary evidence locker in the Forensic Investigations Office for me to process for possible latent prints.
And when you process an item for latent prints, describe to the jury what's the process and what does that mean?
So, in this case in particular, I took a chemical agent called Sudan Black, which helps us see latent prints that may possibly be in blood.
And what are latent prints?
Latent prints are fingerprints that are left behind from the oils on your hands.
So hypothetically, if somebody puts their thumbprint on something, you might be able to visibly see some prints?
Possibly.
Or perhaps doing what you were doing, you might be able to lift some prints that might not quite be visible to the human eye?
Yes.
Now, before that knife got to you for that work request, had it previously gone to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement?
Yes.
And at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, do they process evidentiary items for the presence of DNA and or fingerprints, depending on what the request is?
Yes.
And without saying anything about any results or anything, but did FDLE do their analysis on the knife for DNA before you did your fingerprint analysis?
Yes.
Now, do the detectives under a crime scene have to kind of think about which one to do first, or if both are feasible?
It's up to the lead detective on the case, if they want us to process it first, or if they would like it to go to FDLE first.
And is that a calculated decision that the detective could speak about?
Yes.
Now, so tell the jury about what did you actually do? I know you described it a little bit. What's that process like?
So it is a chemical agent that is black in color, and we cover whatever the area is that's covered in apparent blood. We cover it in that chemical, We let it sit for a minute, and then we wash it off, and we can also repeat it to try and darken any possible latent prints on the item.
Where do you do that?
I did it at the Forensic Investigations office in Winter Haven.
And that's a secure, clean place?
Yes.
After you did all that, what were your results?
I was met with negative results.
Does that mean there were no latent prints that you were able to see or lift that could be compared to anything?
Yes.
And did you have an opinion about, is it difficult to get latent prints after an item's already been processed for DNA?
I don't particularly have an opinion on that.
Okay. So at the end of your results, in essence, you couldn't decide that there was anybody's fingerprints on that knife, correct?
Correct.
And are there certain reasons why somebody may leave a fingerprint or not leave a fingerprint?
Yes.
And fingerprints are not always left on an item, correct? Even if somebody handles it?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
All right. Your Honor, could Forensic Investigator Ellis get off the witness stand to show the jury the knife?
Sure.
Thank you. For the record, the State Exhibit 199 will be shown to the jury by Investigator Ellis.
Ladies and gentlemen, I do want to advise you that any item that's received in evidence will go back with you to the jury room during deliberations, so you'll have plenty of time to examine anything that's received. But from time to time, the parties may wish to publish evidence here in open court.
Okay, make sure all the jurors could see it, and then you can have a seat. All right, thank you, Ms.
Yes.
All right, we'll continue on with the photographs. State Exhibit number 22. Now, what is approximately the total length of that knife, blade and handle?
12 inches or 1 foot.
And then in terms of the actual knife blade, approximately how many inches is the knife blade?
It's approximately 7.
You said 7 inches?
Yes, sir.
Now, State Exhibit 23, could you situate us to, if you continue to the left on that photograph, where are you headed towards?
Back towards that living room area.
The living room and then eventually the door that we saw earlier?
Yes.
And does that give a view of what you were describing in 24?
Yes.
25. What begins to be visible in State Exhibit 25?
The victim.
Now, on the left side of the photograph, is that some of the sliding glass door blinds?
Yes.
So is it a fair statement her head seems to be fairly close to that area?
Yes.
Above her head on the floor, what is that pictured?
It's a brown hearse backpack.
All right, State Exhibit 26. Is that who you would later find out to be Kathy Griffith?
Yes.
The blood that you notice at this scene, is that one of the first pictures of the blood and how high it went?
Yes.
Is it a fair statement that the blood didn't go super high up on the walls or the cabinets, but seemed more down low?
Yes.
27. Now in 27, what's the white thing and the gray thing by her head?
So the white thing is a towel, and the gray thing is a shirt.
Is the neck or the stab wound visible a little bit there?
Yes.
It's on the right side of her neck, is that correct?
Yes.
28. As we get closer to the purse/backpack you described, was blood clearly visible all over it?
Yes.
And that surface area, is that kind of what, if somebody put it on their back, that would be touching their back?
Yes.
Okay.
29. I want to ask you about, in this upper corner here, your upper right-hand corner, there appears to be coagulated blood. Is that correct?
Yes.
What does coagulated mean?
It's when blood has been sitting for quite a bit of time, it starts to gather together.
Did you document also the blood inside and outside the purse?
Yes.
Is that blood between the deputy's wrists there?
Yes.
Is that blood all in the interior of the purse as well?
Yes.
For the record, that's State Exhibit 31. State Exhibit 32. State Exhibit 33. What's that pink zipper pouch?
It was a makeup bag that she had within the brown purse backpack.
Did it appear there was blood on that as well?
Yes.
34. Does that show a wallet?
Yes.
35. Is there blood on that wallet?
Yes.
36. Whose driver's license and whose picture is that?
That's the victim's driver's license.
Were you able to determine, obviously, that the purse and the contents were Kathy's?
Yes.
37. Was Kathy wearing basically a black T-shirt and some jean shorts?
Yes.
Was she also at one point wearing some Under Armour flip-flops?
I do not know if she was wearing Under Armour flip-flops at one point.
Did you see some Under Armour flip-flops close to her body?
Yes.
But how they got there, you're unaware?
Correct.
Now, it appears that her arm from approximately her upper forearm / elbow area is obstructed. Was her arm under something?
Yes. Her arm was under the kitchen island.
38. Is that the neck wound?
Yes.
39. 40. 41. Tell the jury about why do you put a ruler up next to the neck wound?
It shows length and width of the injuries on the victim's body.
And is that wound basically wide open?
Yes.
All right, 42. Is that the dishwasher?
Yes.
What's the red thing, the red stuff?
It's apparent blood.
And is that to the left of that same dishwasher?
Yes.
Now going back to 42 for a second. In front of the dishwasher, is that same kitchen island?
Yes.
And Kathy's on basically like the other side of it, correct?
Yes.
Do you know how the blood got all the way over there?
I do not.
Continuing on to 44. In the forefront, or front of the photograph there, is that same kitchen island?
Yes.
Now, is the knife block from which the knife came from visible in this photograph?
Yes.
Going back for a moment, where in this photograph is it visible?
It's to the left of the stove.
And it's kind of like a wooden block there?
Yes.
And were there a number of knives still in the block?
Yes.
And then, of course, an empty space for the knife you located?
Yes.
45. Now, is this obviously of Kathy's legs and feet?
Yes.
And by her feet, what were the 4 items that you found on the floor there?
There was a left flip-flop, a right flip-flop, 2 phone charging cords, and a set of keys.
Is that blood on the cupboard in the upper left of the photograph?
Yes.
are those the items you mentioned?
Yes.
And it appears that there's an Under Armour logo on one of the flip-flops. Is that correct?
Yes.
Does that appear to be apparent blood in State Exhibit 49 on the bottom of Kathy's flip-flop?
Yes.
In State Exhibit 50, does there appear to be some apparent blood on the other flip-flop?
Yes.
And those are a matching pair, is that correct? Both Under Armour? In State Exhibit number 51, does there appear to be blood underneath the chargers?
Yes.
52, 53, 54. Did you see various marks and bruises and or scrapes on Kathy's legs and feet, or Kathy's legs?
Yes.
Continuing on with 55 and 56. All right, going to 57. Does that show what you were describing, her right arm being under the kitchen island?
Yes.
Going back to 57. The bottom of the island, does there appear to be a lot of blood near her arm, extending to the left and the right?
Yes.
And on that single door by the shelves, is that blood?
Yes.
$59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66. Is the knife lock much more apparent in this photograph?
Yes.
You mentioned to the left of the stove on the countertop.
Yes, sir.
67, 68, 69. Now, in 69, is there something on the island that caught your attention?
Yes, sir.
And what was that?
The victim's cell phone.
And it does appear that the countertop of that kitchen island is pristine and nothing knocked over, no problems?
Yes, sir.
In 71, is that a close-up of Kathy's cell phone?
Yes, sir.
And the time at that point was 11:09 on Sunday, September 8th, as you're taking photographs?
Yes, sir.
Now, on the screen, there appears to be some pictures or icons. Were you able to kind of take a close-up and figure out what those were? Can you see on your screen?
Yes, sir. They were notifications on her phone.
And who did she get notifications from? Can you read the print?
She had a missed call from Susan Deathman, and it appears a text message from a Detective Lacey.
And are you able to see a little bit of the content of that text message from the detective?
Yes, sir.
What does it say?
I tried to call you.
In 73, there appears to be some yellow tape and rulers. What's the purpose of that?
That is for us to do bloodstain documentation.
I also noticed that the island appears to no longer be there in the kitchen, exposing Kathy's right arm and hand and watch. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
How did you move the island?
We had about 3 or 4 of the homicide detectives move the island.
And was that in order to document what was underneath the island?
It was in an effort to preserve any blood, apparent blood, that may be on the floor underneath and around the victim.
And does 74 show some additional blood that would have been under the island by the victim's right hand?
Yes.
75. Is that the white towel and the gray shirt you mentioned earlier?
Yes.
Now, from 75 to 76, did you pick up the gray shirt to investigate further?
Yes.
What does 76 show?
It's an apparent slit in the gray t-shirt.
And are you aware of how that got there?
I am not.
Are you aware of when that got there?
No.
Are you aware of who did that?
No.
77. What's that show?
It's a small hole in the shirt.
Where on the shirt is that? Do you know, like front or back? Do you remember?
It's the back left shoulder of the shirt.
Do you know what caused that?
No.
Do you know how it got there?
No.
When it got there?
No.
Who did that to that shirt?
No.
Whether it was purposeful or accidental?
No.
All right, as we move on to 77A, is that same shirt?
Yes.
And where do you take that photograph of the shirt?
I was at the Forensic Investigations office.
And is that like a gray camo shirt?
Yes.
77B appears to be a close-up. What was the purpose of the close-up? What does it show?
It's showing apparent blood
Where on that shirt is the apparent blood?
underneath the collar of the shirt.
And I believe you might be able to point to something on the screen with a mouse.
Mouse up there on
This.
If you could, for everybody's benefit, kind of show where the apparent blood is.
It is about right here on the shirt.
Okay. All right, moving on to 78. Is that Kathy's feet,
Yes.
foot, excuse me, and there's apparent blood all over her foot?
Yes.
Carrying on with 79 and 80. 81. 82. Were you able to see bruises on different parts of her arms and legs?
Yes.
83. Now in 84, I take it at this point Kathy had been taken away, is that correct?
Yes.
Does this show what would have been underneath Kathy's body,
Yes.
including the coagulated blood at the top of the photograph you mentioned?
Yes.
Okay, for the record, that was 85. Now we go outside. 86, is that black Volkswagen that was right by the door, by the carport?
Yes.
The interior of the car in 87, did you find a cell phone in that car?
Yes.
And a computer,
Yes.
laptop? 88, is that the black cell phone?
Yes.
And were you able to determine this was the defendant's car and the white car was Kathy's car?
I wasn't made aware of which car was which on scene.
Did you find that out later?
Yes.
There appears, excuse me. The next photograph, which is 89. What does that say on that paperwork?
It says the R. Fred Lewis 2021 Florida High School mock trial competition.
And then 90. Is that a continuation of that paperwork?
Yes.
And what's the subject matter of that? If you could read what you're able to make out.
Would you like me to read what I can from
Yes.
this? The victim, a Caucasian male, approximately 5'11" in height and weighing approximately 235 pounds. The cause of death was blunt force trauma to the back of the head, caused by a smooth, rounded object, cylindrical in shape, consistent with a tire iron. The blow to the head lacerated the skin, causing substantial bleeding, and crushed the skull, causing bone fragments to become embedded in the brain. The time of death is estimated to have been between 10 and 11:30 p.m. on January 3rd, 2020. The defendant's criminal record includes convictions for the misdemeanors of battery, disorderly intoxication, trespass, and vandalism, and the felony offense of cultivation of marijuana.
And for the record, this has nothing to do with the defendant, correct?
Correct.
Okay, continue.
The first two convictions were in 2011 and grew out of a barroom fight. The trespass and vandalism charges relate to a protest by the defendant and several others at the Pinnacle Paper Company on Thanksgiving Day 2019, during which windows and doors were spray painted with red paint and a load of manure was dumped at the entrance of the administrative building. The drug conviction was in 2004. Of the registered vehicles in Canton County, there are 414 Ford F-150.
And where was this paperwork found?
It was in the black Jetta.
91. Is that a wallet?
Yes.
92. When you open the wallet, whose ID did you find?
Collin Griffith.
93. Is this the back seat?
Yes.
And on the rear left floorboard, was there a uniform of some type?
Yes.
And did you find out upon closer inspection it was a Domino's work uniform?
Yes.
95. Going to the car parked on the street, is that what you would later find out to be Kathy's white Volkswagen?
Yes.
96. Was it clean inside?
Yes.
And did you find any objects of note in the front seat?
No.
Did you find any objects of note in the back seat?
No.
Were any firearms or weapons found in her car?
No, sir.
Going in 98, pop the trunk open. What did you see in the trunk?
An organizer and just some mix and match bags.
And then finally 99, did there appear to be some like grocery bags maybe?
Yes.
All right, now we're going to segue briefly to 167 to 169. Going to the aerial overheads. Thank you. All right, 167. Could you please point for the jury with the red arrow again, where the crime scene house is located? All right, so that's the carport, the driveway, the mulch you can kind of see, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And then the two houses that seem to be most directly across the street, could you put the arrow on those two houses? All right, thank you. And then 168, could you point to the crime scene house? All right. And the houses across the street. And then finally, the last photograph. That's the crime scene house there. And all right, thank you. Now, describe to the jury in a general sense, when you see evidence or things that might be evidence, how do you impound it, or what do you do with it?
So we first talk to our detective on scene, whoever our homicide detective is, or any general detective, depending on the type of call that it is, and we confirm with them that they want it collected as an item of evidence. We take brown paper bags with us into scenes, and we will write the time that we've collected it, what the item is, and where we've collected it from. And then we put them all together, and we will take them back with us to the office to put in a temporary evidence locker.
Did you take fingernail swabbings and or clippings from the victim?
Yes.
Describe to the jury what that means and how you did that.
So we first got permission from the medical examiner to be able to do that on scene. But for swabbings, we take a wet cotton swab that we wet with water, and then we take a dry cotton swab and we rub underneath the fingernails of the victim. And then we will also take fingernail clippers and clip the victim's fingernails and place them in a small manila envelope that has a glassine envelope in it as well.
And can your end product then be sent to FDLE, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, for them to do any analysis that they want to do,
Yes.
such as DNA comparisons or things of that nature?
Yes.
Now, between the victim's right hand, between her index finger and her thumb, and like the webbing there, did you notice an injury?
Yes.
Did you describe that as a laceration?
Yes.
Now, when a victim is taken to the medical examiner's office, do they take photographs that document the body, the injuries, the external and the internal?
Yes.
All right, Investigator Ellis, I don't have any further questions for you.
Excuse me.
Investigator Ellis, I just have a few questions for you. When you took the pictures that have been shown to the jury today, that was many hours after Kathy Griffith died, correct?
I am not sure of the exact time of death for her.
Well, you responded at about 7,
Yes.
right? And you didn't take pictures until after 9.
Yes.
So at least those 2 hours, if not longer.
Correct.
And during those 2 hours, you don't know who all was in that kitchen, do you?
No.
And before you even arrived on scene, at about 7, you don't know who was in that kitchen?
No.
Are you aware that first responders or emergency medical technicians did respond to the scene to perform life-saving functions on Kathy Griffith?
Yes.
And you're aware of that partly because she had some of the stickers that they use on her body, right?
Yes.
The area where Kathy Griffith was laying is a fairly tight area, right?
Yes.
So have you been on scenes before when emergency medical technicians are trying to revive someone or save their lives?
I have not been present while they are performing life-saving measures. I've been present after the fact.
Okay, so you're not aware of how frantic it is and how many people have to get close to the body?
Correct.
Okay, but it's at least possible that first responders or emergency medical technicians may have altered the kitchen in some way, not on purpose, but in their efforts to save Kathy Griffith.
Yes.
May have stepped on things, right, like blood,
Yes.
and they may have moved items that got in their way, right?
Yes.
Like the bag that we saw in the picture.
Yes.
The are you also aware that Collin Griffith actually performed CPR for quite some time on Kathy Griffith before anybody else responded to the scene?
I did not know anything pertaining to
Okay.
him prior to my arrival.
Have you been trained in how to do CPR on somebody?
Yes.
And one of the first things anyone is instructed to do is to lay the person flat on their back, right?
Yes.
And that's enabling the person who's performing CPR to get a good surface upon which to do the chest compressions, right?
Yes.
So you have no idea what position Kathy Griffith was in either when she suffered the wound to her neck or shortly after she suffered the wound to her neck.
Correct.
Are you aware at all of the mechanics of how wounds work?
I do not have any experience with wounds.
Okay. I'll save that for somebody else then. The flip-flops that you spoke about, they were actually reversed, right? Like the left one was on the right and the right one was on the left in the picture?
Yes.
And one was turned upside down?
Yes.
So it wasn't like somebody just fell back out of their shoes, right?
It could be possible, yes.
And then they flipped and one turned over?
Yes.
The island you mentioned it took 3 to 4 detectives to lift it and move it. So it wasn't like you could just touch it or bump against it and it would move like this on wheels.
Correct. It was pretty heavy.
The shirt that you talked about in the photos, was it actually determined that that shirt belonged to Collin Griffith?
I was never informed if it actually belonged to him. It just had Collin Griffith's name written on the inside of the shirt.
And that shirt was recovered from around Kathy Griffith's neck.
Above her head.
Above her head.
Yes,
Okay.
on the floor above her head.
Okay. So like it had been possibly taken off and used to either support her head or try and stop the wound from bleeding?
Possibly.
It was right near towels that were possibly serving that purpose as well, right?
Yes.
And did you take pictures of Collin ever?
I did not. I never made contact with Collin.
All right. The slit that you mentioned on the shirt, where was it on the shirt?
It was on the lower, more midsection left side of the shirt.
So like the torso area?
About right here. Yes.
Okay. Well, you're going to have to stand up and show
Sorry.
the jury because they can't see.
It's about right here.
Right here?
Yes.
Okay, so front left side of his stomach area.
Yes.
And you said you never made contact with Collin, so you never took the photographs of him.
I did not. That was Forensic Investigator Bange.
The keys that were seen on the trunk of the black Jetta,
Yes.
that key ring contained several keys on it, right?
Yes.
And although that key ring with keys was on top of the black Jetta, it actually contained the keys to the white Jetta that was parked in the street, right?
I'm not sure.
So you didn't...
I did not unlock the vehicles. The detectives unlocked the vehicles.
Okay. Well, let me put it this way. The keys that were in the kitchen,
Yes.
it was on a round key ring, right? With just a car key.
Yes.
Okay. So did you test that to see that it actually belongs to the black Jetta?
I did not do anything as far as unlocking or locking vehicles.
And when you log evidence, you don't mention like key ring because there are 2 Jettas here, specifying which one the keys go to?
I specified what was on the key rings, but I didn't know what car key in particular went to each car.
The key ring that had just one car key on it, it had no other keys, right?
Correct.
No house keys.
Correct.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Any redirect?
No, thank you.
Is the witness released?
Yes, Your Honor, but she'll remain on standby for later on.
All right. You're free to go for today. If you're needed back, you'll get a phone call. Thank you.
you.